everybody, I'm Daniel, Onion Gravy 64 or Civil Onion based upon how you know me, and welcome back to Pokemon of the Week. This week's Pokemon is Raichu number 26 in the Pokedex, but before I begin, I just want to say, at the start of the video this week, please leave some feedback. Whether it be about the Pokemon of this week, or a previous week, or some feedback about the series, pretty much anything would be acceptable and appreciated. I will remind you again at the end of the video, but please do leave comments. I like to see them and read them and reply to them, and it's what YouTube is all about. Anyway, back to Raichu. It's an electric type, meaning it only has the one weakness, the ground. It unfortunately though only has 3 resistances: electric, flying and steel. Electric in fact can become an immunity if it has the ability Lightning Rod, so let's swiftly move on to abilities. Static is an ability almost all electric types can potentially have. It means that if a move that you are hit by is a contact move, not all physical moves are contact moves by the way. I even believe Grass Knot, a special move, is a contact move technically, so special moves are not immune to this. A contact move that hits Raichu can result in the Pokemon attacking Raichu being paralysed. It's not very useful on Pokemon that aren't bulky though, and most electric types are not bulky, so unless you're Ampharos, Static is pretty much useless. Lightning Rod makes Static even more useless further by being a really good ability. What Lightning Rod does, it absorbs an electric type move, it makes you immune to it, and what it does, it gives your special attack a 1-stage boost. If you're playing, for example, in a double battle, Lightning Rod also attracts all electric moves to the Pokemon. But obviously competitive battling is all about single battles, so that's what we'll focus on in this video. Base stat wise, Raichu is kind of the summary really. In NU, its base stats are sufficient. However, above NU, its stats are lackluster at best. Its base speed of 100 is pretty good. In NU, if you're above base 80 speed, you're usually going to outspeed, so base 100 is pretty good. Its attack and special attack being base 90 though, that's distinctly meh and average, because that's not quite enough usually to get a one-hit KO on anything based on the fact that most sweepers have at least a 3-digit attack or special attack, not often both, but at least one. So Raichu has a bit less natural power than most sweepers. Defensively though, it is just as frail and as poor as most sweepers. Base 60 HP means that both its ridiculously terrible defense and its average special defense can't be utilised for any defensive purpose whatsoever. And it's the main reason why you never see a gimmicky version of Raichu. Raichu gets access to Wish, which you would think would be a move it could try and use, because Wish is a very rare and very useful move. Raichu though just is not bulky enough for such a thing as this, so therefore the sets that I'm going to have to tell you about are quite well documented. There's another reason for that though. The reason Raichu sets are so predictable is because Raichu is massively overrepresented in competitive Pokemon. What this means is that if you were to look at Raichu just on its base potential, it wouldn't be used very often at all. It's used a lot more than it is purely on that type of information, because people like Raichu because they like Pikachu, and obviously it evolves from Pikachu. So Raichu is quite often used a lot more often than it should be. Not as often as Charizard is overrepresented, but Raichu is quite high up on that rung too. So let's get to the first of 3 sets, and this is the most common one by a country mile: sweeping using Nasty Plot. Not many Pokemon get access to Nasty Plot, and when it comes to electric types, that is even further narrowed down. Raichu having access to it means that it can make its base 90 special attack, which is normally average, a lot more useful. Use Nasty Plot the once, special attack is doubled. Use it twice, it's tripled. Use it 3 times, it's quadrupled. And obviously that does a hell of a lot, no matter what move you use, so long as it's effective. Speaking of effective, Thunderbolt is base 95 when it comes to power. It's also going to get stab, so you get 50% on top of that. It's also 100% accurate, and it does have a chance of paralysis as well. So it makes a very lovely stab move for Raichu. A lot of people may say Discharge is a superior move. On Raichu it is not. Having a 20% extra chance of paralysing may be nice on a bulkier Pokemon, but on Raichu you have to hit hard, and that is the same on all sets involving Raichu. You can't outstall the Raichu, you have to outpower and outmaneuver. Hidden power is an interesting choice to go with it because the most common hidden power for Raichu is hidden power ice. Main reason for that, Bolt Beam type coverage. And if you don't know what Bolt Beam means, it's the electric and ice combination. Obviously the Bolt is from Thunderbolt and the Beam is usually from Ice Beam. In reality though, Bolt Beam normally means either Ice Beam or Thunderbolt, followed by Hidden Power Electric or Hidden Power Ice. Hidden Power Ice being the more common one there. It hit after Edgequake, or arguably even before Edgequake. It is quite often considered the best type coverage combination for hitting Pokemon super effectively. But because people assume you'll use Hidden Power Ice, Hidden Power Grass does have a lot of usage as well. And the main reason to use Hidden Power Grass is because in NU in particular, there are a lot of water types. Some of them are really good, some of them are downright awful, but there are a lot of them nonetheless. So having Hidden Power Grass can hit them all very hard. You may ask me, what is the point having Hidden Power Grass if you could have Signal Beam and Hidden Power Ice together? Because obviously that type coverage seems to make a lot more sense. Not necessarily, and the reason I say that is because most grass types in NU, or most tiers in general, but especially in NU, they're not pure grass. Most of them are grass poison, and as a result, Signal Beam doesn't get as much usage because it doesn't hit many things super effectively that Raichu will have switching into it. Focus Blast is another alternative for your final move slot. Problem with Focus Blast is its hideous accuracy and its rather redundant type coverage along with Bolt Beam. So that's another reason why that is very much optional. The final option for the final move slot though is Encore, which may seem very weird because I've kept saying Raichu's not bulky, so don't use it in a bulky way. That's not why you use Encore on Raichu. Encore may have been nerfed in the current generation, however, if you are able to Encore a Pokemon that use Substitute, or a Pokemon that use a boosting move like Swords Dance, you will get an opportunity yourself to set up as they either keep using the same move or switch out, which is more likely. So it gives you an opportunity to use a nasty plot pretty much for free. However, if you're not an experienced Pokemon battler, I do not recommend using Encore because it's very high risk and requires a very strong eye for prediction. Timid nature is a must, because even though you may want to get cocky and use Modest, if you are in a situation where you would rather hit slightly harder or go first, Raichu really has to do the latter, and base 100, although good, is not setting the world alight, therefore you really need to go timid. Lightning Rod is obviously your ability, because that booster special attack and easier access to switch in is very important. Item wise, Life Orb is the most common item for this set, but if you know me and you've watched a few Pokemon of the Week episodes before this one, you'll know that I'm a big fan of the Expert Belt, and because Bolt Beam's type coverage is so impressive, Expert Belt is even more useful than normal. IV wise, obviously the box in blue represents ice, the box in green represents grass. Although you can have a more efficient IV for Hidden Power Ice, you have to make sure you don't lower your speed because you will lose all speed ties. Therefore it's better to lower your attack and defense rather than lower your speed. EV wise, maximise your special attack, your speed, and doesn't really matter where the last four go. Next set is all about using the physical attack rather than the special, and there's a main reason why this is much less common than the special one, and that is because Focus Punch is a staple on physical Raichu, and that means you cannot have Lightning Rod. They are illegal together because you can't get them in the same generation, because Focus Punch in Generation 5 is no longer a TM. People that don't do this type of battling massively competitively probably don't care about such things as that. But if you're watching this and you want to be competitive, you can't run those things together. That is an illegality and you will be disqualified, or at least trolled. so don't do it. Substitute is always on a physical Raichu set because obviously it's great in tandem with Focus Punch for one. It makes your prediction a lot easier because if you get burned, put to sleep or paralysed, this Raichu is useless to you. Most are if they're paralysed or put to sleep, but burn's another effect you can't afford with this Raichu. Volt Tackle is a move you might not have seen before if you're relatively new to competitive battling, and that's because it's a very, very rare move. It's basically an electric type double edge, which obviously makes its type coverage a lot better. However, it does mean that the amount of recoil you will take on a Pokemon that does not have a lot of HP is enormous. The alternative is to use Thunder Punch, but if you do that, you nearly lose 50% of its power. Volt Tackle, base power 120. Thunder Punch, base power 75. That is an enormous power difference, and Raichu is relying on hitting hard and quick, so therefore Volt Tackle is the better choice. Now, looking at the last move option, you may be a bit bewildered and ask me, why on earth would you put Grass Knot on a physical set? I'll tell you why. Take an example Pokemon like Golem. It may be weak to Focus Punch, but it will quite fancy taking one of them on, because its base defense is so goddamn high. However, it will not fancy taking on a Grass Knot, because A, it's quadruple weak to it, but more importantly, the Pokemon that will switch into Raichu, once they work out you are a physical Raichu, will be physically defensively biased. Therefore, Grass Knot is a way of preventing you from being walled. Encore is there again. It will allow you to set a substitute up much more efficiently and safely if you do it correctly. Fake Out is the other option. Obviously, you'll be utilising the fact that you've got attack investment, but the more important factor for Raichu is that Focus Sashes are removed by Fake Out, and as a result, Raichu cannot get stopped in its tracks unless you happen to come across a Ghost type with a Focus Sash, in which case you're just a bit unlucky. Investment wise, maximise the attack and the speed, it's obvious. Doesn't matter where the four others go, has to be a jolly nature. Item wise, there's a bit of leeway here. The reason most people would go with leftovers is to get you another potential substitute. You don't have to go with leftovers, a more attacking item is potentially viable, but I would recommend going for leftovers. And like I said, you're stuck with static, it's a bit of a shame. Finally, we're going for the choice set, and you could go for choice specs, but I do not like choice specs on Raichu, and I will tell you for why. Base 100 speed is, it's kind of there, and if you're using Raichu in a tier other than NU, you really can't get away with the choice specs, because you've just got so many Pokemon that outspeed you anyway, that I would just recommend not using it whatsoever. You're tempting fate for all the wrong reasons. As a result, I'm going to talk about the choice Scarf version. Thunderbolt is a standard, it's your strongest move that is accurate. Volt Switch is also a standard because it allows you to get momentum by switching as you attack. You can switch and attack, and obviously taunt will not affect you. And unless you are trying to attack and switch out on the ground type, it is incredibly reliable. Not as reliable as U-turn, but Raichu does not learn U-turn, so we have to deal with the cards we are dealt. Normally Focus Blast is an option on a Raichu set. Here it's more mandatory for the simple reason that you need to hit quite hard. And although it does not give fantastic type coverage, it does allow you to hit certain things which you may not want to go with a hidden power, because Focus Blast will get you more one-hit KOs because it is stronger. Obviously though, the reason a lot of people will not really fancy Focus Blast is because you don't want to be locked into it when a Ghost Switch is in. You have to be careful. And if you're playing in a tier that's above NU, Golurk will absolutely ruin your day with Raichu if you can't predict very well. Golurk is immune to electric. It's immune to fighting as well. So obviously it will completely destroy Raichu unless you've predicted a hidden power. Luckily for you though, to balance that out, a Pokemon like Golurk is weak to both of the potential hidden powers you can pick. Same sort of debate as we had with set 1, so I'm not going to bore you to death with it. But generally speaking, Hidden Power Ice is the more common one, so bear that in mind when you do a set. This set, even if you're going for a choice Scarf, has to be timid, because a lot of Pokemon that are base 100 will run a choice Scarf, because they too will not believe they are quite quick enough to run a choice Specs. So you have to run a timid nature to make sure you at least speed tie with them. Obviously, Lightning Rod is the ability of choice here, because getting a +1 is still very tasty, even if you can't kind of sweep as effectively as you can with a nasty plot set. It also makes switching in a lot easier. The investment of EVs is obvious. Now finally, before I go away, First of all, please leave your feedback. Got that out of the way. Now this sort of slide, you'll have seen a very similar version of it last week if you watched it. The special video is episode 40. Not going to bore you to death with the details because you can read, but please do send your Pokemon sets that you want me to review either through the email oniongrave64@googlemail.com or send me a comment either as a personal message or on my page on Facebook, facebook.com/OG64YouTube. Include all the information because I'm not going to guess on your part. Please do get involved because I want the special video to be a really big blockbuster of a video showcasing all the community effort. So please do get involved. Talk to you all next week where it'll be Pokemon number 31.